First thing we're looking at in this unboxing is going to be the base sprue. Now, I've said before that I really like the fact that the Perry Miniatures box sets include sprues with bases on. However, once again, what were they thinking with these sizes? The bases on here are based on a sort of 20 by 45mm frontage for figures, and that's just such a strange size. I looked at the Death and Dark Continent rules set, and here they put 3 figures on what looks like a 20 by 60. So I'm not sure what system they had in mind when putting these bases in the sets, but it obviously wasn't one that I play. Now, another positive aspect of all the Perry box sets is the information leaflet. It's well illustrated, and often for newcomers to historical games, they may well feel they're diving in at the deep end. But these brief potted histories, although a scholar or historian of the period might take issue with some of the material, and it's certainly a sort of superficial look over the view, you really find that they have enough information to keep you engaged, get you a little bit in speed, and give you an idea of what you've got in the box, and also give you an idea of scenarios and actions which you might want to take into account. Sure, everyone's heard of Rorke's Drift or Island Luana, but there are loads of interesting scenarios in here, and that will give you plenty of places to start as you start thinking about how to best use these. Now, I was a really big fan of the heliograph team, which is almost the reason why I bought the set. Not quite, but almost. Now, why can't some of their competitors do this? Number the sprue parts just somewhere to give an idea of what they are. Now, this isn't the best example of this, and I'll talk more about it later, but why can't their competitors let you know which arm goes to which other arm, or what's meant to be on what? Now, the command sprue, there are 2 of these with 4 on each, 4 figures on each, includes plenty of heads, plenty of arms, a casualty marker, just 2 unlike the Prussians, and the heliograph, which is excellent. It's a lovely touch, and they could easily have released this separately in metal. I like the frogging on his uniform, and this tunicked officer here will probably be used in several other game settings, as well as colonial. Now let's take a look at the infantry sprue. Each sprue contains 5 figures, and there are 6 of these. Again, we've got rifles, there's some flash, but nothing major. And these home service helmets, as well as the tropical pith helmet, which is perhaps more iconic. But steampunk enthusiasts, please take note, for British Island dress, they should be wearing the helmet with the spike, a little bit like a pickle helmet, not wearing a pith helmet in the British Isles. Just thought I'd get that in there. Now, I'd like to point this out, because I take slight issue with it. 38 figures. And yes, there are 38 figures here, but only if we count the 2 casualty markers, and this fellow who's sort of crouching down. Now, I know with the Prussian set, I was slightly sort of complaining that they'd put 1 casualty figure on every sprue apart from the command sprue, but perhaps this is the same thing going the other way. Now, I've clipped off a few pieces, and by magic, we'll see how they come out. Perfect. Love these poses. There's no kind of hovering hands. You can see where the figures in the firing line really seem to lean into the weight of the weapon. And also the pose is naturally supporting, and I found they went together quite well. This figure in the kind of advanced pose. Again, it's a nice pose. It gives kind of variety to a firing line. Let's have a look at another one. Now, again, I don't know why Perry Miniatures does this with all of their helmeted figures, from the Austrians to the Prussians, but here we see that mould line returns. It's a really odd choice putting that those figures with the mould line going horizontally, and you can see with the kind of band that runs around the middle of the pith helmet, there's an obvious gap in it, and it also kind of causes some of the facial features to be a little distorted. Not a major problem, as they're going to be seen from quite a distance away, if my camera will focus, but still a little bit annoying, and perhaps pedants might find this too much of a complaint to buy the set. These are the unused home service helmets, as well as the Glengarry caps and helmets of wounded heads. Again, I like the fact there's a kind of helmet in a hand, which adds some character, but I don't know if I want necessarily 1 of those on every 5 figures to be holding his pith helmet up. Now, you'll note that whenever I clip figures off for the review purposes, I like to try and use the ones which have the wrist joint, as I find that figures with just an elbow joint far more useful when using kit bashing and body swaps. A little tip there, because sometimes the shoulders aren't the same width between manufacturers. Now, looking around, there's plenty of rule sets here to be used for. I've got my eye on perhaps playing Men Who Would Be Kings with them. And yes, although this does look like it would be most well suited to the northwest frontier, it does include army lists and plenty of scenarios for playing against the Zulu. Looking through the book, though, I just happened to glance across this page, which shows French foreign legionaries in Southeast Asia, and I wondered, could I kit bash these? Would it just be a repaint? This certainly got my brain thinking, and with those wargames Atlantic Chinese on the way, I wonder, maybe this is a future project. On the whole, I think I quite like the Osprey Brew books, and I will be referring to these later on when I come to talk about other more versatile sets. Now, I also have the In Her Majesty's Name set, and one of the things I really like about the Osprey Blue books is that sometimes you can find that your figures can be equally useful in multiple different game settings. This one, somewhat similar to Empire of the Dead by West Wind Games, has a skirmish sort of warband style game, and although I'm a big Frostgrave player, I do sometimes wonder if there are just slightly too many warband skirmish games out there. Now, this final part of the unboxing is maybe more of an unbagging, because I think it would be worth comparing the Perry miniatures to the Warlord Games miniatures, which are included for free in this month's issue of Wargames Illustrated. That was nearly a faux pas. Taking it out of the bag, we have a quick look at the Wargames Illustrated sprue. Now, the positive I can say here right away is that it includes kneeling bodies. This firing line that you can get from that will be a lot closer to one that you'd see on a Victorian drill manual, or from the iconic scene in Warrock's Drift, where the front rank kneels, the second rank closes over. Again, I also like the fact they've got a big range of helmets here, including this sort of Natal Bushman head, and also another naval cap. And it's not just the Perrys that fall for the mistake of putting the mould line down the middle of the face. On the whole, these look like good figures, and I've not yet had the chance to test them out. But I will say that the Perrys definitely pip it, as the Warlord figures work out at 24 figures for £22 compared to the 38 or 34 that you get from the Perrys.